Hey guys, I'm Mono and welcome to the new and improved Beginner's Guide to Everything 2.0 HD Remaster Deluxe Edition Z. This is an updated version of my most popular guide for Hell Let Loose, since the previous video is now over a year old, and since then, a lot of the game mechanics have changed. Update 10 marks the release of the game, and it is my intention for this video to serve as a tutorial for new players. Most of the footage you'll see here is from before Update 9, so some UI elements and mechanics might be different, but pay no attention to that. Everything I'm about to say is up to date. I will include everything you need to know, from basic keybinds to strategic understanding of the game. So if you're new to Hell Let Loose, or if you're trying to teach your friends, this video should do the trick. I will timestamp different sections of the video so people can jump to a specific topic, but I highly recommend watching the entire video since there are a lot of tips and just general knowledge scattered all around. Just like in the original video, I'll be going over soldier classes and roles, how to drive tanks, how capturing a sector works, and the importance of garrisons and OPs, which are absolutely critical to understanding the game and having fun. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more, check out my Hell Let Loose guide playlist, which features over 30 videos going over every single aspect of the game in detail. I will also include links on the top right to in-depth videos of the topics that I'm currently talking about in this video. Alright, let's get started. As soon as you join the server, you'll first need to pick a side, and then you need to either join or create a new squad. If you're a new player, I highly recommend you join an existing squad, since creating a unit will force you into the role of squad leader, and that means listening to 3 separate voice channels. Yeah, good luck trying to play a game while 7 people are talking at the same time. Units are divided into 3 types: infantry, armor, and recon. Recon units are 2-man squads consisting of an observer and a sniper. Armor crews consist of 3 people, a tank commander, and 2 crew members. And you need to be part of an armor crew in order to drive any of the tanks, which require a driver, gunner, and a spotter. More on that later. Infantry squads are what most of the team will be playing as. Once you join an infantry unit, you'll be prompted to select a soldier class. Every soldier, independent of what class they are, has 2 bandages and at least a melee weapon. The riflemen, assault, and automatic riflemen are your most basic classes, the I just want to shoot stuff classes that don't really have any specific function or ability that is unique to them. Each class has different loadouts that you can unlock, which will change stuff like the amount and type of grenades that you get, your main weapon, and equipment. The riflemen and the support get boxes of ammunition that they can drop to resupply their teammates. These come in 2 different flavors: munitions, which is basically bullets, and explosive ammo, which are grenades and rockets. So you can't resupply your bazooka from a munitions box, you need the explosive ammo box. You can drop these boxes down on the ground by selecting them, looking at the ground, and pressing left mouse button. The second loadout for the medic also gets a box of bandages to resupply bandages to your teammates, but it's kinda useless. Once on the ground, these can be interacted with by holding down the F key. You won't get extra grenades or ammunition from these boxes, you will only replenish whatever you've used since you spawned. These supply boxes are not to be confused with actual supplies, which you can get from the support class, who can drop 50 supplies at a time, from commander airdrops, which are worth 100 supplies, or from supply trucks, which carry 2 crates of 150 supplies. These supplies can be used to build garrisons, nodes, AT guns, or defensive structures. I'll go over those later. Both supply trucks and tanks can resupply themselves and get repaired by driving close to these structures back in the base. The support guy takes 5 minutes to basically regenerate those 50 supplies and be able to put them down again, unless you walk by a manpower node, which will reduce the cooldown to 2 minutes. Munitions nodes will also reduce the cooldown on the munition and explosive ammunition boxes to also 2 minutes. Except for the riflemen, you can only have 1 player per class in your squad, so you can have 3 riflemen but only 1 AT guy. Let's go over the rest of the classes now. I won't go into the specifics of each loadout because that would take super long, and you won't really get to use those loadouts until you've leveled up each class. So yeah. The medic is the only class that can revive downed soldiers. You will always go into the downed but not out state unless you get headshotted or get blown up. Medics can revive an infinite amount of players, but once you revive someone, you will also need to bandage them. Medics bandage players faster than they can bandage themselves and also get 20 bandages, so please bandage other players before leaving them to go revive someone else. In order to bandage yourself, you need to press the F key to take out the bandage or select it from, one of your keys, and then hold F to apply that bandage. Next up, the support player. It is one of the absolute key classes in the game. It is the only class in the squad that can give the officers supplies to build a garrison. Garrisons are team-wide spawn points that can be built by squad leaders and the commander only. If you don't have garrisons on the map, you can only spawn at the HQ on your side of the map, so it is absolutely key for squad leaders to try and build as many of these as possible. Officers can also build OPs, which are spawn points that are restricted to your own squad. Finding and destroying enemy OPs and garrisons while trying to defend your own is kind of what the entire game revolves around. This isn't like Battlefield Conquest where spawn points are gained when you control a sector. Each spawn is player built, so the team that has 6 garrisons has a massive advantage over a team with only 1. I've done several videos on this matter because it is the single most crucial aspect of the entire game, so check out those to understand these mechanics in detail. Before I forget, in order to build these, the officer needs to take out his watch, hold right click, and then left click somewhere where the blueprint turns green. To toggle between OPs and garrisons, you use the mouse wheel. Garrisons can be built on your territory using 50 supplies, or in the first 2 enemy squares using 100 supplies. Garrisons in enemy territory, called red zone garrisons, will become locked if an enemy is within a 100-meter radius of them, while those in friendly territory have a much smaller lockdown radius, which is like 15 meters or something like that. Enemy garrisons can be dismantled by holding down the F key when you're close to them, or by satchel charges, rockets, or tank shells. OPs can also be destroyed by explosives, including grenades, but grenades will not destroy garrisons. OPs can also be destroyed by just walking close to them. I almost forgot to say this, but there is a limit of 8 garrisons per team, and they have to be at a minimum of 200 meters away from each other, which is extremely important because if you place a garrison, let's say 170 meters away from the front line, then you won't be able to place one at the actual front line, which would be obviously much better. The only other type of spawn point in the game currently is the Airhead, which is a commander ability. If you see a plane go by and drop this box, that is either your own Airhead or the enemy Airhead. If it is the enemy Airhead, then that's where the entire enemy team is about to spawn, so destroy it as soon as possible. They can be destroyed with the same rules as enemy garrisons. There's a bunch of other commander abilities that I won't go over right now because that is for squad leaders to know mostly. So yeah, for the sake of simplicity, I will not be going over them in this video. Moving on, the machine gunner is fairly straightforward. You get a machine gun which you can place over a piece of cover by pressing down the F key. Machine guns are vital for defensive positions since they can provide suppressive fire over an advancing enemy, which will temporarily blind players, making them completely unable to aim. It is extremely hard to shoot accurately when you're being suppressed, so your role as machine gunner is not necessarily to wait to see the enemy and shoot to kill, but rather shoot towards enemy positions to prevent them from shooting or even moving in the first place. By spraying hedgerows or fields where the enemy is moving from, you will get a ton of kills from enemies that you would never be able to see otherwise. It is great for locking down and suppressing an enemy, allowing your squad to move in and take down their spawn point. The AT class has been changed significantly for Update 10. There's now 3 different loadouts: The first one has a bazooka, Panzerschreck or AT rifle for the Soviets, plus a rifle and grenades. The second loadout has AT mines and a satchel charge. You need 1 mine to take out light tanks and 2 to take out heavy tanks, and the same goes for satchel charges. However, that may change in the future, so be aware of that. Satchel charges will kill any soldier within a 15-meter radius, even through walls, so they are extremely effective for clearing out buildings and defensive positions. They will also destroy player-built structures like nodes, garrisons, bunkers, barbed wire, and so on. They are also great for TKing your entire team by accident, so be careful with where and how you use them. Once a satchel charge is set, you will see a small warning when looking towards it, but it is very easy to miss, so let people know that you've set one by using proximity chat. I will explain how to use that chat later on in the gameplay section. The third loadout has a wrench and a hammer, which can be used to build an AT gun. I will go over how to build stuff when I talk about engineers, but what you need to keep in mind as an AT player is that most frontal hits won't damage enemy tanks, so you need to hit most tanks from the side or ideally from the back. And lastly, let's talk engineers. Engineers have 2 loadouts. The first one is used to build and repair stuff, while the second one has a satchel and also a repair tool. In order to build something, you need to take out your wrench, select the proper structure using your mouse wheel, and then hold right click until the blueprint turns green, and then left click to construct it. Once the blueprint is down, it needs to be hammered into existence. Each structure needs a specific amount of supplies to be built, and some can be upgraded using even more supplies. Supplies have a 50-meter radius, so they can be dropped, nearby the structure you want to build. They don't have to be dropped right next to it. If you don't build your blueprint, it will disappear in a few minutes. Engineers are the only class that can build nodes. These are resource generators which will generate plus 10 of the corresponding resource and can only be built in friendly territory, but not on the first 2 squares of the map. Resources are used by the commander to deploy vehicles, call in bombing runs or recon flights, and so on. In order to keep the video short, I won't be going over the armor and recon squads in detail, but what you need to know is that the second loadout for armor squads has a repair tool to repair your tank, and recon squads are the only ones that can deploy their OP past the first 2 squares of enemy territory. Alright, now let's talk gameplay. After that, I'll talk about artillery and lastly armor. Let's start with how to actually cap a sector. Each map has a total of 15 different strongpoints, of which only 5 are used in any given match. These 5 get picked at random when the server switches maps, so you get different strongpoints each time you play a map. In warfare mode, you can capture sectors from the 4 squares adjacent to each strongpoint, while in offensive mode, which is where one team defends and the other one attacks, the sector can only be captured from inside the strongpoint, which is the small little black circle. Capture rate is constant, so it can't be slowed down or accelerated, and it depends exclusively on which team has more players within the capture area. Being inside a strongpoint adds to your cap weight in warfare mode, so if the Germans have, for example, 2 soldiers in the capture sector, but the Allies have 2 soldiers inside the strongpoint, then the Allies will be capturing that point. It is absolutely fundamental for new players to understand that this game is about map control, not about controlling strongpoints. Again, I've done several videos on this topic given how incredibly important it is, so check those out if you can. I will link to them in the video description, as well as the top right corner, and they are also on the guide playlist. Communication is vital in this game, so make sure you have a microphone and you're willing to use it. The X key is used for the channel only commanders and officers can access, the C key is for talking to your own squad, and V is a proximity-based chat that will let you talk with whoever is close by. Use this to call for medics, request resupplies, or call out enemy positions. You can also pinpoint enemies by pressing down on the mouse wheel, but this will only be seen by your own squad, and those pings will fade after a few seconds, so keep that in mind. Officers are the only ones that can put down permanent markers on the map. You can press T to see a heads-up display showing current objectives and markers, as well as stuff like player markers and how many magazines or grenades you have left. You can also hold Shift to hold your breath and zoom in slightly for better shots. This is available to every single class in the game. Also, before I forget, proximity chat cannot be heard by the enemy. You will die a lot in Hell Loose, so don't get frustrated. Try to read the map and predict where the enemy is, and always try and flank. Use every piece of cover at your disposal, be it a wall, a hedgerow, or more importantly, differences in terrain. These will help you minimize the risk of getting shot at when running across open ground. In forest maps specifically, you will often get shot from seemingly nowhere. Remember that movement is very easy to spot, so try and slow down and stay still when that just keeps happening. It's easier for you to spot the enemy if you just stay still. Before moving on to armor, let's talk artillery. Any type of soldier can use the arty. It is located in the middle HQ on your side of the map, unless you are the attacking force in offensive, which doesn't get artillery. In order to use the arty, you need to load a round by going into the second position with F2 and hitting R to reload. You can select smoke rounds or AT rounds by pressing 1 or 2 before loading, as well as AT rounds for the AT gun. These will consume munitions, so don't just spam RD like crazy because you will drain your team of resources. Once a round is loaded, you can use the F1 position to aim and shoot. Angle is controlled by W and S keys, and rotation is A and D. There's a conversion table on the left that you can use to dial in your shots depending on the distance, but most experienced players will use a calculator app or website. Check out my artillery guide video for that, and yes, I have a video for pretty much everything. Both positions in the gun can rotate the gun, but the loader is faster to rotate and can rotate the gun all the way to the left or the right, while the gunner is restricted to a much narrower arc of rotation. Alright, and lastly, let's talk armor. Tanks are controlled by 3 people and spawn at fixed locations at the edge of the map. Some vehicles and tanks spawn automatically, and others need to be requested from the commander. The driver controls the tank using WASD, but you'll first need to start the engine by holding down the E key. And you'll need to perform gear changes by using Shift and Control keys. Tanks and Recon vehicles have automatic gearboxes, so you don't need to do that when driving those. Once you get into first gear, wait for the revs to max out and then start shifting gears from second all the way up to fourth, always waiting for the revs to hit their max before switching gears. Reverse is done by pressing Ctrl until you reach the reverse gear and then pressing W, which can be a bit counterintuitive for some players. Depending on the tank, drivers can also fire a machine gun using the mouse to aim and shoot. Gunners control the turret by using WASD and can select between HE and AP rounds using number 1 or 2. As soon as you get into a tank, remember to press R to get the first round in the chamber so you don't run into an enemy tank without having a round loaded. And also remember to reload after every single shot. Right-clicking will fire your machine gun, so you can take out enemy infantry as well using that, though it is extremely visible and will give away your position, so be cautious with it. Both HE and AP rounds have splash damage, but the splash damage on HE rounds is larger. Lastly, the spotter can use a periscope to look around and can ping using the middle mouse button. In order to use the periscope, you just need to scroll up or down on your wheel. As the observer, you want to keep your eye out for enemy tanks and also scout the road ahead for any obstacles or AT mines that can be laid down. A tank without one of these positions being manned is compromised severely by either lack of immediate mobility, firepower, or visibility, so please tank in a full squad. Alright, that's pretty much all you need to know in order to play this game. As I mentioned before, apart from the mechanics, what most new players take very long to understand is how impactful map control and garrison placement is. So definitely try and learn more about those topics once you get more familiar with the game. If you're looking for people to play with, I highly recommend joining the NPA Discord, to which I will link to in the video description. NPA, or Never Play Alone, is a great community that spans several different games. You will find a lot of hella loose players there, so definitely check that out. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a like or share it with your friends. Make sure you check out the full HLL guide playlist for more great tips and in-depth guides to basically every single aspect of the game. As always, thank you for watching, and I hope I will catch you in the next one.